Hello, everyone. It's Brian. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to the working week. About a month ago, I saw a video on John Bellamy's channel. John's a UK chap who makes videos about records, like so many other people. He did a video in which he was showing album covers that had places on them that he had been to in person, which I thought was pretty interesting. So I thought about it for a while, and I decided that I could do a video on that. Why not? I'll put a link below to John's video in which he did the same thing. And because I live in Toronto, some of these, I think the vast majority are from Toronto, but be that as it may, let's keep going. I'm going to start with something that is a little maybe on the artistic side. This is an album from Broken Social Scene. The cover of this CD was painted by Kevin Drew, one of the founders of the band, and I just included it to kind of set the tone of the mostly Toronto theme, and that this is a portion of the Toronto skyline. So that's kind of cool. And yeah. The second one I wanted to mention, this is more of a mode of transportation than it is a place, but if you are familiar with Toronto, you'll get it right away. This is this cover image for a CD called from the Toronto Tabla Ensemble, and you may note that there are some steps in front of this person here. Those are 4 arduous steps that take you into the interior of an old Toronto Transit Commission streetcar. You might call it a tram. These were notoriously inaccessible. No one with any accessibility concerns or anyone pushing a stroller or a shopping cart could ever get into these things. It was a bit of a problem. Equally difficult to get out, and there wasn't much space. They've replaced them all with a newer style that are lower to the ground, but these were notorious. I included it because, having lived here for many years, I've been on these many, many times. It's kind of like a classic Toronto scene. The last CD I'll mention is this live show from 1971, live at Massey Hall from Neil Young, and you'll see this Massey Hall sign against the facade of Massey Hall, and Massey Hall is a very iconic Toronto concert venue, sometimes known as the House of Gord because Gordon Lightfoot played many shows there. So that's kind of cool. And again, I've seen many shows there as well. Just off the top of my head, King Crimson, Feist, things like that. So that's kind of cool. But speaking of Massey Hall, I have to show this Rush record, All the World's a Stage. This was recorded at Massey Hall, live show. So these images and all of the images in the interior trifold are all from Massey Hall. So a lot of them show the stage, but there are a couple others. For example, in this corner we have 2 images of the crowd, the top one being showing the balcony and the crowd below, and the bottom one being the area right in front of the stage. So I was not at this concert, obviously, because I'm way too young, but I've been in Massey Hall several times. I'm going to show 2 more concert records, then we'll move on to more concrete things, maybe. I'm going to show this Bruce Cockburn record, Bruce Cockburn Live from 1990. This was recorded in a venue called the Forum at Ontario Place in maybe 1990. The date in here is 1990, so I'm assuming it was recorded in 1990. This was taken from 2 shows, and I was at one of the shows. So as I like to tell people, if you listen carefully, you will hear me applaud. Anyway, this is a double record. There's a single disc version of it as well. It just has a couple fewer tracks. So on the inside, you will see there's the stage. So I wanted to mention this because if you didn't know this, the Ontario Place Forum was kind of an interesting venue. It was outdoors. There was a covering over the stage and some of the seating area at the front. But if you couldn't get that because it was general admission, you could sit on the lawns, kind of a hill that went up the sides. It was in a circle. So the stage was circular, the venue was circular, and most notably, the stage actually rotated. So during the concert, you'd have the opportunity to see the artist face on, like facing you, and then from the sides and the back as it rotated. And over a normal length concert, that would happen many times, so you get to see them many times. So yeah, I've been to several concerts here. Bruce Cockburn many times, Cowboy Junkies at least 5 times here. So Blue Rodeo, I've lost count many times here. The League of Crafty Guitarists I saw here. Lyle Lovett, Billy Bragg, a lot of things. It had the really interesting admission policy. You pay $5 after 8 o'clock and you sprinted to the stage to get a seat. Here's another Rush record, Exit Stage Left. Now, this record was actually recorded in Scotland. I don't know where the interior shot was. I'm assuming these interior shots were Scotland as well. I don't know about that. But the exterior, if you look closely, there are references to a lot of previous Rush records, like the Owl from Fly By Night. You'll notice this is from Permanent Waves. On the back, we have people moving pictures. We have 2112 thing. We have various people from various Rush records. And it opens up like this. So this particular shot that was staged to look like this was shot in the Winter Garden Theatre in Toronto. So at the time, that theatre was abandoned, but it's been renovated. It's a beautiful theatre. So it is kind of funny that it was shot in Toronto, but the actual concert was recorded in Scotland. But I have been in this theatre, not to see a concert, but I have been in there. This is a record from Blue Peter, a Canadian band, and the record's called Falling. This is most notable for the track Don't Walk Past, which was a big hit for them even on MTV. I tried to verify what we're looking at here. Ooh, had to sneeze there. I am almost 100% confident. Well, I am confident. I would say that this is the Prince Edward Viaduct, also known as the Bloor Street Viaduct. It's the truss arch bridge that spans the gap over the Don Valley Parkway and the Don River in Toronto. So I have driven over this bridge many times, cycled over it, walked over it. I've even taken the subway over it many, many times. In fact, the video I made for the Downtown Toronto Record Show, it was a clip of me filming out the window as we go over the Don Valley. And I've looked at many, many photos, and I'm confident that this is what it is. And it makes sense because they're a Toronto band, but it's funny that no one mentions it anywhere. So that's kind of funny. In later years, they added a barrier so people wouldn't jump off the side because that was an issue. But it's a well-known Toronto landmark. Another Bruce Cockburn record. This is High Winds, White Sky. And it opens up to a larger image. This bridge that we see here is the bridge on the Toronto Islands that connects Ward's Islands and Algonquin Island. Again, I've walked over this bridge many times, cycled over it. I've not been there in winter, as the brave Bruce Cockburn has, but I'm also assuming that this interior shot is the islands, but I'm not sure on that. I just know that what this is instantly recognizable, and it's well known that this is where this is taken. It's from 1971 or 72, somewhere in there, and a good record. Back to Rush, and you might be wondering, what is it that you're looking at here? It looks kind of post-apocalyptic. So this is a montage or an image that was put together because the image at the front is the some sort of abandoned building in Buffalo, which was demolished. But the image at the back here is the Toronto Weston Harbour Castle Hotel on the lake. So they put those two together. Now, I've been in the Toronto Weston Harbour Castle numerous times. I've eaten there, I've met people there. So I don't know where that is taken though, probably not there. So that's kind of an interesting, sort of apocalyptic looking scene. Down to New York City. This is Steely Dan's Pretzel Logic. And this particular spot is the entrance to Central Park at 79th and 5th, which is known as the Miners Gate, or the Miners Entrance. Miners Gate, I think. Again, I've been there. I've walked in through this entrance. Obviously, the guy selling pretzels was not there because this was decades ago, I'm guessing, because this came out in, I don't know, there's no date on this. A long time ago. You can see the skyline of New York back there. I guess the band is on the inside. Staying with New York, Paul Eugene Harvey, PJ Harvey, Stories from the Street, Stories from the Sea, and this is a photo of her walking in Times Square. And I'm assuming that everyone who goes to New York goes to Times Square just because it's so fascinating. And I've done the same. I've walked pretty much exactly where she is there. And then the last thing I'll mention is the very first record that I thought of when I thought of places I have been that are depicted on album covers. There is one other Toronto album cover that may be more iconic in the sense that it has the CN Tower on it, and that's the one with Rick. Is it Views from the Six? So he's on top of the CN Tower. I don't have that record, but I do have this one from Rush. You guessed it. This is their Moving Pictures record, and you probably already know. If you're a Rush fan, you'll know the story of this being a double entendre. It's moving. People are actually physically moving pictures, but they're actually making a moving picture. They're filming something. This is actually taken in front of the Ontario legislature. This building is where the Ontario government sits. And I've been in this building. I had a tour of it, I think twice. I've stood exactly where they're standing now. There was a concert here many years ago, a kind of a protest concert against the government at the time, and such people as Billy Bragg and Bruce Cockburn. I think Bruce Cockburn played. I took photos, but it was a long time ago. So this is the very first one that occurred to me when thinking of images of Toronto this is the first one I thought of with images of anything that I've been to on a record cover. So that's that. So maybe you have something to contribute to this thread or theme or whatever John called it. I'd be interested to see that. I did try to find other ones because I have been, to New York several times, and I have never stood where Bob Dylan is walking in the Free Will and Bob Dylan, and I've never been to the place where Bowie is standing when he had his photo taken for the Ziggy Stardust cover. So I may have missed some things, but mine are largely focused on Toronto. But that's all I have for you today, so thanks for watching.